Let's now move to our next panel, Agentic Commerce, when AI becomes the customer. So here's where we are. AI is already deeply embedded in shopping. 300 million Amazon customers used Rufus last year. Shopping queries on ChatGPT have jumped from 9% to 14% of all sessions in a year. And nearly half of US shoppers say they use AI to help them buy. Now, most of it is still AI-assisted shopping. So a human is browsing, asking for advice, and making the final call. So truly agentic commerce, when an AI agent searches, compares, negotiates, and buys on your behalf, is still embryonic. The infrastructure is being built. So Visa, MasterCard, and American Express are all developing agent-to-agent payment rails, but we are not quite there yet. So what happens if an agent is the customer? What needs to happen for someone to trust an agent to make a purchase on their behalf? Who is accountable when your agent makes a bad decision? So this is exactly what we're going to explore today. But before we jump into the panel, I'd like to get a sense of the room. And so I've got a couple of quick polls for you. So would you trust an AI agent to make a purchase on your behalf? Yes, for routine purchases. Yes, even for bigger purchases, if I set the parameters. Not yet. I like to review before it buys. And no, I want to stay in control of every purchase. So that's the first poll. And the second one, when do you think AI agents will routinely make purchases on behalf of customers? It's already happening within 1 to 2 years, 3 to 5 years, 10 plus years, or never. So I'll let you vote for another few seconds. So interestingly, on the first question, 71% are not ready yet. They would want to review before the agent buys. And 57% think that AI agents would routinely make purchases on behalf of customers within 1 to 2 years. It's very interesting results. Okay, so let's keep these numbers in mind as we go through the panel. So let me introduce our panelists. I am joined today by Singh, who's partner at Speedinvest. Samir invests in network effect businesses and sees how founders are navigating the AI shift. Yash Kanoria, so professor at Columbia Business School, where his research focuses on marketplace design and matching markets. His recent work on how AI shopping agents interact with platforms is one of the first rigorous studies in this space. And last but not least, Anne-Claire Baschet is Chief Data and AI Officer at Mirakl, the leading enterprise marketplace platform. Anne-Claire oversees Mirakl's AI strategy and works with many large platforms. So let me start with you, Yash. You've written an academic paper about how agents shop. It's entitled, "What is your AI agent buying? Evaluation, biases, model dependence, and emerging implications for agentic e-commerce." So before we dive into the findings of the paper, could you help us define what an AI agent is? And I know you've also built a simulator where we can see AI agents shop in real time. So it'd be great if you could show us what happens when you ask different AI models to buy the same product and how their choices differ.
Good. Hi, Laure. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. And I'm intrigued to hear the perspectives of Anne-Claire and Samir as well through this discussion. Of course, excited to share my research as an academic. That's always exciting. You asked about defining AI agents, so that's pretty broad. I think we have a sense what they are, but I think the distinction between just AI assistants and AI tools of a year or two back and what people are calling agents is that they take on longer, more extended tasks and try to complete that segment or that task in a more end-to-end fashion. And oftentimes this is not happening real time because it takes them a while to collect the information, parse it, and so on. So in the context of coming to the e-commerce context that we want to discuss here, right? Uh, I think there's two kinds of AI assistants. Even before we talk about agents, right? There's two kinds of AI assistants. There's the obvious one where I go and talk to my favorite chatbot about some purchase that I want help with, right? But there is also something which is under the radar. So even the traditional customer funnel, which might involve searching on Google or on Amazon in the search bar as usual, right? Now is actually being infused. The results are pretty strongly infused with Gen AI behind the scenes. Okay, so Gen AI is actually playing a role. There is AI assistance happening even for shoppers who are following the traditional funnel, and this is happening now and will accelerate. Okay, so this is my sense. Now about the agentic thing. Okay, so this is very much in its infancy in e-commerce, but in this context, it would be me asking my AI tool in an agentic form to go out. Maybe it will help me with discovery, right? Maybe potentially also with comparison and maybe with selection. But it's going to go out, search the web, open up relevant websites. It's going to parse the product display, look at the product pages, read the detailed description, and then maybe try to reason through the options and help me compare and choose. Okay, so that's how I would describe agentic e-commerce. Now you asked about the paper, and before that you wanted to see the simulator, right? So I will pull that up in just a second. Let me just tell you what we were interested in. Okay, so this project started about a year ago, and the question we were interested in is, can we understand the choice behavior of these AI tools if I ask them to go out and compare and choose on my behalf, right? And one can imagine deploying a tool from your favorite frontier lab, whether it is ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, and saying, hey, like, find me a tube of toothpaste or find me a fitness watch. And letting it go to a website like Amazon or Etsy and look for the relevant item. Uh, this comes with a downside for somebody who's looking for a scientific answer because we were interested in how it makes trade-offs between different attributes, whether it's price or rating or platform tags or the position of the product in the display. And when it makes a choice on a website in the wild, you don't know what is driving that choice. And in some sense, you're fundamentally limited in not being able to disentangle what is causing the choice. You can ask it, but you can take its answer with a pinch of salt, right? The explanation doesn't always match the actual choice behavior, something we found. So, what we did is we took a different approach. We said we'll make our own mock marketplace. It's necessarily very simple, right? But it allows us to control the individual listing positions and characteristics, and then we can actually see, hey, if I modify this price, I change this platform tag, how does this impact the choice behavior? Okay, so this is that simulator that you were talking about. Let me just show it to folks. So let me try sharing my screen. Perfect. So do you see this product display here?
Yes.
Perfect. So this is a mock website that we built, okay? And you can make certain choices. It's a simulator, as we were talking about. So you can choose which category you're interested in. You can let loose a Gen AI model of your choice. Here we have just three prototypical examples. And you can choose the prompt mode. I'll be just demoing the default prompt. I think, Laure, were you going to share the link as well on Zoom? Or should I put it in? So if people want to play, they can also do
Yes.
so. Yeah,
Yes. So Justin has shared the link on Zoom as well,
perfect.
so people can play with it as well.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you. So you can also try this out. I'm going to go with the default prompt, but you can pick one of the others. And if you want to write your own prompt, you can do that. It's just going to take a minute or two to respond because these models are pretty slow in parsing this type of display. Okay, so fitness watch, I asked GPT 4.1 hey, you're my shopping assistant, use your best judgment and select one of these 8 products to purchase for me. Okay. It's as simple as that, obviously simplified, but it allows us to see what exactly is going on. Okay. So I hit run simulation, the run simulator, and I see GPT 4.1 has picked the Fitbit Versa fitness smartwatch, which appears here in the top left. Okay. So now I try the same exact thing with GPT-5. It has the same display, right? And I simulate, and its response is to pick a different smartwatch, the Garmin Vivo Active 5. Okay, so already different models from the same provider are making different choices. And then I try this third model, which is Claude 4.5 Opus. And this picks yet another product. It's the Fitbit Inspire 3. Okay, so now there's obviously model dependence. Now let's do one more little test. Okay, so this time I'm going to play with something in the display. I'm going back to GPT 4.1, which had picked the Fitbit Versa. I'm going to shuffle the listing positions. So the same listings, I'm going to move them around without changing any contents of the listings. I'll shuffle it. Okay, so now that Fitbit Versa has shown up here and everything has moved around. I hit run simulator. And the same model confronted with the same listings has made a different choice. Okay, so it has picked the Garmin Forerunner 55. So this is very interesting, and you might suspect, hey, why is this happening? Is it that it likes the position in the top left, right? I'll just stop sharing my screen at this moment because now we can maybe let it be on for a minute. So does it like the position in the top left? Is it something about the product, right? If I shuffle it again, and I again hit run simulator, it's now picked the Fitbit Versa, which has now appeared here. So there's something going on and we wanted to understand it. And what we did was to run some randomized experiments, right? And just see like which characteristics are driving the choice behavior. And just to give you a small taste, I don't want to hog the floor here, but GPT 4.1 actually has a strong bias for the top left position. It will pick it all else being equal 3 times more often than you would expect at random. Now, you might ask, is this because humans also favor the top left? Well, the contemporaneous Claude model does not favor the top left. I think it was top center. The contemporaneous Gemini model also has a different position bias. I think it was to the top right, if I remember it. Now, you might say, is it because of the provider? Well, the next GPT model, we saw GPT-5 in action. Has a very different position bias. It has a bias, it's very different. GPT 5.1 has a strong position bias to the bottom right. Okay, in some sense, exactly the opposite of GPT 4.1. Okay, so now at this point, your head may be swimming with all the things that I'm saying. This kind of weirdness extends to things like how much do they care about ratings or price, right? Or platform tags. Some of the GPT 5.x models, they care about ratings twice as much as their predecessors. Okay, so this was very interesting to us to just observe, to think about why it's happening and what are the potential consequences. So that's a little taste, and maybe more as the opportunity presents itself.
Excellent. So you're basically showing us that agents currently don't browse and don't shop the way that humans do today. So, I mean, Anne-Claire and Samir, any reactions about Yash's experiment? Is that consistent with your experience or expectations? Shall I start with you, Anne-Claire?
Yes, so first of all, I think I was one of the first to read your paper. So that's great to be together like 9 months after. I think it was released in June or July last year. So during July, at the same time at Mirakl, we were doing research trying to understand the same thing, how agents are choosing to recommend a product or another. So that typically resonates with what we were seeing. And at the same time, what we've identified also as another challenge is now that agents are choosing products, how do they really do the recommendation? Because the task they have to solve is not anymore what search engine has to solve, a keyword like, I don't know, smartwatch. but they have like a problem expressed with many words. There is a recent study from Forrester saying that on ChatGPT, on average, now people are typing 23 words in their prompt. So, and we were trying to understand at the same time what will make an agent prefer a product because it helped him to better choose and solve the problem of the user. And so thanks to your study, we iterate at the same time between models, improving titles and description. And we are on the same path now. Each time there is a new model, there is a challenge to rewrite title and description in a way that is very descriptive for agents and well-performing. But at the same time, agents, they are delegated a task that is more solving a problem or reaching a purpose. Like I would take an example I had last week. I need to attend a business cocktail in New York. My luggage is late. Unfortunately, I don't have anything to wear for tomorrow evening, and I need to have a big business cocktail dress for an event with customers. And typically, in the way today marketplace and retailers and brands structure product data, they are not always giving the structured information that will help an agent to decide. Concretely, in this example, would be something that is delivered in I don't know, financial district in Manhattan this afternoon. Or this is something that is long dress, so it's perfect for a business cocktail. When you are human, you can see it. And what we've learned in addition to the learnings in the paper is if you help to structure text data with occasion, purpose, FAQ that will help the agent to do the recommendation, it's helping a lot to pick this product rather than another one that don't have this additional information and that this additional attributes. So there is a real edge on providing structured data and structured data that are making the job of the agent easier, I would say.
Okay, thank you, Anne-Claire. What about you, Samir?
There's a lot of things to get into, but I'll focus on one particular point that Yash mentioned that I thought was really interesting, which was the position bias of the models. That's obviously kind of odd, right? Because humans, you would assume, wouldn't have necessarily a position bias when they're scrolling shopping. You're evaluating the price, you're evaluating the picture, the visuals matter, the product category matters, but that's not happening. So when you look at the actual technology, how do agents actually work? At the heart, an agent is a coding model. And how they actually been built up, first you had sort of a token predictor, a large language model at the heart of it. And on top of that, you have reinforcement learning with a ton of coding data. And the thing with coding data is the reason coding models are so good at what they do, specifically on coding, is that coding is very easy to verify if something is right or wrong, right? There's tons of examples of syntax, there's tons of examples of right code, right result, wrong result. You can compile the code to see if it runs. So there's ways to figure out if it is right or if it is wrong. And then you kind of get the coding agent to run on your computer to get it to do another task. Tasks for which, unfortunately, there isn't enough training data. Because let's say you have a user shopping for a particular product, and there's 10 different users shopping for the same product. All 10 of them would have different priorities, correct? And so there's no reliable way to predict what was the right task and what was the wrong task. The way reinforcement learning works is, let's say you get an AI model to play a game and lots of different outcomes happen. And one of the times it gets something right and wins the game. And the way reinforcement learning works is you ask the model, the one that got that right, trace back your sequence of events and just upweight everything you did. Which could be right, which could be wrong. Some of those steps could be right, could be a longer way to get there, but that's largely how it works. And it works in a game and coding kind of environment because you can define this was the right outcome, this was the wrong outcome. You can't do that in shop. And that's kind of why at least my assumption is that you have this position bias because that wasn't specifically designed by the technology creators.
Very interesting. So, Anne-Claire, you're working with dozens of marketplaces right now. what's your views on agentic commerce and what are the views of your clients right now?
So I think the first there is yin and yang reaction. I think the first one was fear about disintermediation, about what has happened in travels and in hotels and so on is going to happen to retail. And I want to still have the relation with the customer. I still want to be able to promote what makes the differentiation of my brand, to continue to have this relation. And I think this was the first reaction when Perplexity launched their agentic commerce approach in October 2024, when the retailers and the brands were no longer the merchant of record. And that was a problem for them. So obviously, the protocols that OpenAI and then after Google launch with retailers, Agentic Commerce Protocol and Universal Commerce Protocol, bring, I would say, more clarity toward the ecosystem. With now, no, you still receive the payment, you still are having the customer data, you still are able to engage in a relation with them. And so I think now everyone is seeing that it's something that is not tech-led, but that is more a technology that is enabling to solve what people are really doing. They are never entering a physical store saying running shoes to a human in front of them. So they see more the challenge. And I would say the priority of everyone now is two things. The first one is improve their what they call discoverability on this agent and LLM, how they could be more visible, and that is expressed by two new keywords that are GEO, Generative Engine Optimization, and AEO, or Agent Engine Optimization. That requires different elements, strong SEO foundation, having outside US, or if they are not connected to this LLM, a strong structure of their websites, linked to the research paper we just mentioned before, but as well requires two new things. So the first one is to invest in what is called more their brand authority. Outside their ecosystem, when these agents have to make a decision, they are like, oh, this brand, it's like a stranger. I have to know outside, don't trust him only by what he's saying on his ecosystem, but look at outside and see if I can believe him. And then after, the other elements I was mentioning is to have like a strong data product content that is more matching the problem they have to solve. And the other thing is, so I would say they are like looking at discoverability in a way that is okay, it's growing fast. It's maybe today less than 1, 2, or 3% of my traffic, but it's growing and it's driving me also higher conversion than classical referral traffic. So on average, it was 38% in the Adobe study during Black Friday. Shopify released a study saying 45% of additional conversion from this AI affiliation traffic. And that is what we are seeing over all of our customers, and sometimes even higher. And the second thing, so they are considering how could I leverage and be more visible as this, in a way, off-site experience, because this is the way. And there will be this inflection point between traditional search and AI search. So I need to be there. And in a way, it's like the beginning of SEO. It's free. So let's go over there. And the second element is more a deep thinking about it's a new standard of experience. So how could I improve my own experience to be more agentic? And what does that mean? So everyone is at the first stage, crafting shopping agents, learning also the hardware that sometimes they do not have the assortment, even if they have a successful marketplace or platform strategy, and seeing new problems about how could I really match this demand of the shopper that is now expressed in a way that is more granular than ever. Before it was more filters and keywords, even on site. Now I have really this specific demand, unique, I would say, of every customer. So we had like the fear, then the FOMO, and now we are more like, okay, it's something that is growing fast. How could we structure this strategy in more off-site strategy visibility, and then on-site, and having an agentic experience, and starting to see the big challenges it represents for operation. And I think no one is all in, saying I will put all my product sellable on that, and no one is really all in about want to have transaction outside their ecosystem, more trying to say, okay, how could I start to experiment? So at Mirakl, we've built a partnership with Stripe, but also with JP Morgan, to make it easier for retailers and brands to start to experiment. And what is interesting is some of them, with the first element of improving their discoverability, they are learning that it's a good way for them to capture new segment of customers, like they were not capturing before. One of our customers is Adorama in New York, in the US, and they have been highlighted in the latest Similar Web white paper on the top 3 on Agentic Commerce in their white paper, top 3 in the segment of electronics, at the same top 3 as Best Buy, and they are smaller, because they are really seeing that as an opportunity to capture new segment of customer, and start early to have a strong strategy. But on checkout, I would say everyone is like, what's the value? What's the value for me? If it's to capture new customers, and if it's interesting and they are buying again, that's great. If it's more, I would say, destroying value and not having a great after sales experience, let's not be all in, and let's learn step by step.
So let me turn to you, Samir. As an investor, what traction do you see with startups? I mean, agentic commerce is still in the very early days. So what's your take on agentic commerce?
So first, I'd say we need to be specific about what agentic commerce is. Are people searching for products using LLMs like ChatGPT and Gemini? Yes, yes. Are they doing product research on that? Yes. Are they making purchases through their LLM? No, that's not happening as of today. And we've seen this before, where there are research reports sort of forecasting, making 5-year forecasts of things that aren't happening. And so I have come across a fair number of startups that claim to be involved with agentic commerce in some way, shape, or form, whether that's an agentic travel booking engine for hotels or for flights. How much traction do these companies have? None. There is zero traction for, I have not come across a single agentic commerce startup that has meaningful number of users.
And do you know why that is?
I'd break it down into two segments of why it's not happening. The first one's a roadblock. The second one is just I don't know if there's a fix for this. It's kind of like, let's say you walk into a restaurant and you sit down and the waiter comes and asks you, what will you have? And the first question you're going to ask is, can I have a menu? You don't want to have a conversation with the waiter of what you can do. You want to have a menu and point to the things that you want, because having a menu of options reduces the amount of cognitive load on the user. And that's kind of how shopping works, right? So on the internet, you scroll through lists of products. You might have like a keyword or a category you have in mind, and you go scroll through your options and go, this one. I'd like to learn more about this one. Whereas on a text-based interface, that is pretty high friction. And if you look at how LLMs work today, I'm going to go, hey, tell me sort of the best recommendations for a smartwatch. And I get a bunch of text and I have a conversation about it. That's significantly higher friction. And so that works when you have a lot of cognitive load of, I don't even know where to start. I don't even know what sort of smartwatches exist. Like, help me narrow down my choices. Like, that's where that works. Where LLMs work well in terms of a user interface is they lower cognitive load from a high cognitive load task, like writing a long draft, like generating media, like writing code, right? It's a whole lot easier to send a few lines to LLM, get him to do it. But once you have like a rough idea of what you want that menu to scroll, and that's not something LLMs are good at. So fundamentally, that's one big road. The second roadblock that people don't talk about as much is that people just assume that agents in particular are software, right? So once software is implemented, so let's say Google as a search engine, you built a search engine, your cost of serving a new user is minimal. It doesn't really matter. You can scale this company up without any challenges. That's not how LLMs work. Coding models, which are the heart of agents, are the most compute-intensive technology built in history. And the end result of that is the amount of investment that is going into the technology supply chain for this has caused major shortages and price inflation. So for the first time in 50 years, computing technology is inflationary, not deflationary. And because of this, over the last couple of months, you've had companies getting sticker shock as to how much this actually costs when they try to push AI adoption across the organization. Now, keeping those economics in mind, the assumption behind agentic commerce is that an end user will be able to run an autonomous agent on their phone without paying anything for it. So who exactly is paying for the agent? The marginal costs are massive. The capex requirements are massive. This is just not economically viable.
Okay, it's very interesting. So a number of technical issues and then also commercial issues that you see going forward. So I think I'm going to turn to Anne-Claire first and then to Yash then. So Anne-Claire, so if you're running a marketplace today or even an e-commerce site, so what should you be doing right now, to overcome the challenges that Samir has exposed?
So I would say there will be several stages, as Samir was describing in agentic commerce. Agentic commerce is really the ability to delegate discovery, purchase, and after sales, really end-to-end in commerce to an agent. We are not ready now. It's starting with discovery, then after for purchase, maybe delegation to payment on agent to agent world. But the first thing is consider that the rules of commerce are still true. It's still having right price with the right level of service and matching the demand of the customer. So that's still really true. So what we see is the first thing is still invest drastically on what makes a good retailer, even better tomorrow than yesterday. We've run recently a study for one of Mirakl customer in the US that launched almost 1 year ago their marketplace. And we've measured with them their mention rate with a metrics that is obviously not perfect, but at least the same one for them and all the competitors. And what we see is thanks to their successful marketplace strategy to increase their assortment, never be out of stock, also compete transparently in price with their own 1P product, they were able to improve their visibility of 24 points on their mention rate on ChatGPT. That just put them the first one in their category. On top, even more mentioned than the product of Walmart and Amazon. So that's very successful, and that still is you need to have the product that is available with the right level of service. And there is like new challenge that are stronger than before. The supply chain and the fulfillment, because in this protocol, agents are asking transparency about the estimated delivery dates. And after, for sure, they will organically recommend the one that are really processing on time on their delivery. And the second thing is, I hope, but if not, it's never too late to work on the strong data foundation. Because if product data are scrappy, it will not help agents. Humans can make efforts on one single product if they prefer the brand. The real risk is agents are going to pass. And so curation and the structured data foundation for retailers and marketplace is definitely not an option to have the full potential of the first pillar.
Mm. And so, Yash, in your paper, you call for continuous auditing of agent behavior. Should platforms be building their own testing frameworks? And what would this look like in practice?
Perfect. Yes, I think evaluation is a major theme that emerges from what we found, which was very surprising to me at multiple stages, right? Like the findings were surprising enough that I said, hey, we don't know where it will go, right? Partly for the reason that Samir described, right? There is not one right answer. You cannot easily deploy reinforcement learning on this problem. So you need to keep evaluating and be on top of at least understand what's happening, and then you can think how you want to react to it. Uh, so I think yes, platforms should be having their own automatic evaluation pipelines, and I think many of them might already be building that or have that. This is my sense. Um, they are not the only ones, though. I think the model creators, when they, if and when they start to care about e-commerce, right, that comes and goes, I think they're not able to figure out certain aspects yet. But I think they should be concerned. Regulators might want to take note, right? Sellers have to have their own automatic pipelines for their listing optimization and re-optimization and targeting for different AI shoppers. And Clever's was alluding to some of that. I'm actually very curious what Mirakl is doing to enable this for their SMB customers and so on, right? Because obviously these SMB customers don't have like a bunch of scientists and software engineers dedicated to this stuff. Uh, so I think evaluation is really important. What would that look like, right? I think fundamental to this, sellers, yeah, I just mentioned sellers need to have their own pipeline. So fundamental to the evaluation is a database of user contexts or queries, right? This may organically be collected by a seller, by a provider like Mirakl, like Shopify, right? Or by a large platform, right? You need to be able to simulate like what would that AI tool, given that particular query or context, actually do when it is deployed in your in your way of reaching the customer, whether it's the platform or you're reaching the customer on your own website. And you will see things like, hey, sure, this tool is not supposed to decide for the customer, but maybe it's recommending in a certain order. It's giving that menu in a certain order. Am I showing up on that menu? Right? That's the first thing. And am I showing up high on that menu? And based on that, I can try to change the things. If I'm a seller, that's what I care about. The platform will care about platform health. There are a variety of metrics, right? And they will say, hey, is my platform actually operating in a healthy way? For example, am I able to drive traffic not just to five top sellers but also to a few more? That's just one example, right? But there's a variety of platform health metrics. And these questions and their answers are super important, and these answers are, I think, basically volatile from one model to the next. We saw brands rising and falling just abruptly with a new model release. Products are abruptly rising and falling. Certainly, there are things they can control. Okay, so this is to Anne Claire's point, and they should, right? So being on top of your brand authority and on top of your listings data and having it up to date, all these things are important. But there's some idiosyncratic component to this. So if you don't even know what's happening, then what are you going to do about it, right? So the first step is evaluation for all the stakeholders involved.
Okay. So I'm just looking at the questions. There was actually one comment, let's say, from Neil. Do agents have the same need for marketplaces to aggregate supply? They are unfazed by the hard work of aggregating the supply themselves. And I think that's perhaps a question for Yash. If I seem to remember from your paper, agents have biases in the sense that they converge, so they don't browse the way humans do, which I think is different from the way a good marketplace works, which is to distribute demand across the long tail. Would you like to take this one, Yash?
Yeah, I think I'll say a little bit, right? I think and others can chime in if they have something to share. We did see some concentration happening. We did not compare with the concentration with humans, but we did see some concentration. And the thing is, this is not going to be unique to the shopper. It's unique to the model, and a Gemini model or a ChatGPT model might be used by such a large swath of shoppers that if certain products and brands are prominent, that will lift them, right? For all the shoppers who are open to options. And if some brand or product has somehow become invisible to that model, it is going to push it down. So we got like some initial evidence that there is some of this happening. So folks have to be like just buckle in. I think they need to buckle in for some of these kinds of things and see what best they can do, because there will be opportunities as well as challenges, right? And they will come and go in these phases. It's not obvious. It's not obvious that you can take, if you're not a frontier model, it's not obvious that you can go in and get it to behave the way you want based on your prompt, right? These things don't always just care about, if I say, hey, recommend a diversity of products, it might not be as simple as that to spread the demand out and so on.
So thank you all. It's been a really interesting panel for sure. Certainly, we've learned that definitions are extremely important, and I think the question now is what should agents or AI agents be allowed to do, and who's responsible for when something goes wrong. So